alaikum and welcome back to my channel. My name is Layla, for anybody who is new here. Today I'm going to be walking you through my August TBR, which of course I'm excited for because it means that it's now the fall equinox for the Orilium Readathon, which I am extremely excited about partaking in. I do have books set up for all of the prompts, including the quests. I don't necessarily know that I'm going to complete all the quests, but you know, it's just for fun. So for now, I have them picked out, at least for most of them. But we'll see how it goes. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into my TBR. For anybody who is interested, I did decide to do a elemental character. Her name is Assalamu, and she is a fire elemental. So you can see more about like my character creation over on my blog. If I can find the links to those, I will link them down below just so that you can see where my progress is at so far. During the spring equinox, I did decide to sit the exams for Master of Elements because I am part of the Order of the Crescent, which is really exciting. So we'll see how this month goes. I am traveling during the month of August, and I also have a couple of other things that are going to be thrown in there, meaning August is going to be a very busy month for me, and most of my exam reading has to happen within the first 2 weeks, or I'm probably not going to finish it. So we're going to hope, and inshallah, I can get through all of my reading. Just a small little heads up for you, I may or may not have all of the books that are listed on my TBR, so if I don't have them, I'll just put them on the screen right here. If you do see me looking down at all during this video, it's because I do have my notes in front of me written down so I can kind of keep track of what book is for what prompt. So in order to complete the Master of Elements, I need a D in Elemental Studies, an O in Shapeshifting, an O in Animal Studies, an O in Astronomy, and a Q in Restoration. So I'm basically just going to go through in order with the books that I have assigned or picked out for those exams, and I'm just going to say now that this is going to entirely depend on my ability to actually read in the first 2 weeks of August, just because, like I said, I'm going to be traveling and it's going to be busy, and I don't necessarily know that I'll get to all of my TBR. I want to try and stick to it, but some books might be interchanged, which is something that I ended up having to do in April as well because I read off of my TBR. First up is an O in Animal Studies, and that's to read a book with a familiar or an animal companion. I'm going to take G's recommendation and restart The Bone Star Daughter by Andrea Stewart. I started this several months ago, was really excited to read it, read a chapter, and promptly put it down and forgot that I was in the middle of it. I actually didn't know where this was in my library for the longest time, so I managed to find it, and I'm going to go ahead and read this in August. It is pretty massive, so I'm already starting my TBR a little bit challenging, but this is a book that I really want to read, and I did just pick up the second one in the soft cover, so I do want to get through this so that at least I can get to the next one. So first exam. Next up is for an O in Astronomy, and I know that I'm going to butcher this, but it's a Lily Bay, and that's to read a book with a letter L in the title. This one's going to be a little bit easier of a read, and that's Lore Olympus Volume 2. I finished Volume 1 probably in about an hour when I first read it. It is by Rachel Smythe, and this I actually know a little bit about. It's a Hades and Persephone retelling in the modern world. So I did read Volume 1, and so I'm not going to spoil anything for that, but it does kind of follow the myths and put a little bit of a modern spin on it. I really enjoyed the first one. I thought it was very well done. The first one does have a couple trigger warnings, so make sure that you look those up before you try it out. But I know this is very popular, so most people pretty much know what it's about. I loved it, so I'm really looking forward to getting into Volume 2. Hopefully by the time that I start to get to this, my Illumicrate edition will arrive, but for now I have my Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, which I'll read from. Next up is a book that I don't have, so this is for an O in Elemental Studies, and it's for the element of water, and that is to start a book with a beverage. I decided to slip the Sinister Sisters book club pick here. Truly Devious is by Maureen Johnson, because I think I can read it on the plane. So I'm hoping that that'll be having a nice coffee and just put it up on my Kindle. So I'll put the cover here. I actually have no idea what it's about. It was a recommendation from Bree. She's had it on her TBR for a while. we went down a list of books before we got to one that we all hadn't read. So this is where we ended up. If I can find anything about it, I'll go ahead and insert something here maybe. But I think, I want to say it's some type of like murder mystery or something like that. I think it's one of those, but it's not something we've really read during our book club. So we're kind of stepping out of our comfort zone again and trying something new just to see what kind of fits and what works. So that will be our August pick, and we'll hopefully have an announcement about that, or an announcement about when the live show is going to be for that book later in the month. All right, next up in elemental studies is the Q, and that is wind redirection, and that's to point at a book on your shelves and then pick something that is adjacent to it. So I'm going to cheat a little bit here. One, because I'm leaving the space open in my TBR right now, just because I want to wait and see how the rest of my TBR goes before I try putting a book in this spot. And two, my second cheat is that I'm actually going to do this on my Kindle. So once I have a bunch of books, I have to go back and check what I have on my Kindle. I'm just going to kind of like do the scroll thing, land on a page, and then just pick from that page. Only because I do need something that I can carry with me while I'm traveling or while I'm in process of going to all of the events that I will be going to this month. So fingers crossed I can find something to read there, and that's where I'm going to like fill in the spot here. So for the D in elemental studies, it is to read a book at a C setting, and that's for wave manipulation. I don't enjoy C setting books, so I reached out to Sarah to see if she had any recommendations, and she did have a book that is on my TBR somewhere, but I can't locate it, so I'll just put the cover here, and that's The Daughter of the Siren Queen. I believe it's by Trisha Levensteller, but I'm not 100% sure. So The Daughter of the Pirate King, I believe, is about a siren. I don't really know too much about it. I remember wanting to read it when I first got it, but I haven't actually picked it up. It's been on my TBR for a long time, so I do want to get to it, and I'm kind of happy that she had the recommendation for me to pick it up. For my O in restoration, which is object restoration, it's to read a book with a single object on the cover, and I'm going to bring back a book from my July TBR that I didn't get to, and that is Red Queen. My collector's edition of Red Queen only has the crown on the cover. I believe my regular edition of Red Queen also only has the crown on the cover, but this is the closest copy for me to grab. So I am going to pick this up according to Sarah. This is very similar in the like vicious vein, like mutants type of thing. Like I said last month, I don't know too much about this, but I'm really excited to get into it. Sarah adored it, and she definitely recommended it for me for my July TBR. I just never got to it. So I'm hoping to pick it up for my exams this year. So for my Q in restoration, that is Enchanted Scroll Mending. So it's to read a book that's been on your TBR the longest. I had to go to Goodreads for this because I don't know what book has actually been on my shelves the longest. So I went by my Goodreads shelf, and I only started tracking what I wanted to read on Goodreads, I believe, in 2018. Might have been 2017, but the earliest book that I have in my want to read section is actually by 2018. The first one I can't find, so I don't know if I unhauled it or if it's like hiding from me, which was The Wicked Deep, but and that's by Shay Earnshaw. I can't find that one, so I went with the second oldest that I owned, and that is The Sisters of the Winter Wood by Rena Rossner. I don't know anything about this. Shocker, I know. But because it's been on my bookshelves for, I think, 4 years now, I actually forgot everything about it except for the fact that it's about sisters. And I think they're witches, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's like family secrets, and the sisters working together. According to the back blurb, it says it mixes fairy tale, poetry, history, and heart to create an enchanting and mesmerizing tale of sisterly love, which I think will be really fun to read. This is yet another really big book, but I'm hoping to be able to read it quite quickly. I do love the deckled pages, though. That's kind of nice. So I actually had to dig deep for this one in my bookshelves, which means that Shay Earnshaw's book is probably hidden back there somewhere. But since I can't find it, we're going to go with this one, and hopefully we enjoy it. Last up is O in shape-shifting, and that is for wing formation, and that is to read a book with wings on the cover. I went for a book that was on, I believe, my actual TBR for the spring equinox. If not, it was on a like similar readathon, or not similar, like similar prompt for Readathon, and I never actually got to it, so I subbed a book in for it, I think, and that's The Raven and the Dove. This is by Caitlin Davis. I've had this book forever, and I really want to read it. I've heard good things about it, so I'm kind of interested to see how it goes. Basically, this is a romance between a princess and a prince who is kind of not really sure where he belongs. I don't know anything else aside from what's on the back of the cover, and I don't want to read it too much because generally that tends to spoil a lot for romances, just saying. But I do look forward to reading this. This should actually be one of my quicker reads because it is a romance, even though I think, yeah, it's like over 500 pages long. Not over, it's just under. So this is going to be one of those heftier reads. It's 490 pages. However, I usually read romance novels fairly quickly, so I can, if I sit down with this one weekend or one night, I can probably crank out most of it. But I am looking forward to this, so we'll see how it goes. So both my friend Sarah and I, who are doing this readathon, decided that we wanted to try and take on the quests. I don't know what possessed us both to go, hey, we want to take on as many as possible. So what I decided to do with my TBR is I am going to choose as many books for as many of the quests as I can, and if I get to them, great. If not, no worries. So I'm going to skip the first quest just because I don't have a book for it yet. It's the paid animal therapy, and it's to read a book with more than one animal on the cover. Right now, I can't find a book in my collection that is not 600 pages that has more than one animal on the cover, so I'm currently trying to figure that one out, but I'll put it on hold, and like maybe something on Kindle will come up and like blow my mind or something, so that'll be another free space for me. For guild events preparation, this is a buddy read. Of course, Sarah and I decided we were going to do it together, so we're going to read Flunked by Jen Kalonita. The only thing I know about Flunked is it's a middle grade, and it's also about a girl who goes to fairy tale reform school after getting caught being a thief. So I'm looking forward to reading this. It is relatively short, so hopefully Sarah and I can get through this together and hopefully finish it out before the end of the month. So this should hopefully be an easier quest to finish. Next up is the quest that took me the longest to try and find a book for because I apparently have no books that have shrubbery on them. That's the discreet help needed one, which is read a book that has shrubbery on the cover. And all of my books have flowers on the cover, trees on the cover, and they have no shrubbery. It's like branches, flowers, no like bushes at all. So I finally found one in my younger genre of like my young readers section, which is very, very small. And that is Night of the Ninjas by Mary Pope Osborne. This is a Magic Treehouse book. It's book number 5. I did read the first 4, I believe, in March for our anniversary of our book club, which I kind of took as like, read some of your childhood favorites. So I ended up reading the first 4 of these. This is going to take me less than an hour, which is great. So I can have a quest like checked off my list fairly quickly. I love these books. They have a great child nostalgia for me, so I like reading them and just picking them up and sailing through them. For Courier Needed, I had a little bit of trouble trying to figure out a book to adaptation that I could read, only because there were some like that I had ideas about, but I didn't want to spend my month reading Lord of the Rings or The Fellowship of the Ring, or one of the 3 of those. I don't currently own The Hobbit, so I couldn't read that. And like all of the other books to movie adaptations I could think of were too long for me to read, like The Odyssey. Way too long. I don't have time for that. And other books that I was thinking about that had been adapted to TV shows. So like Six of Crows was adapted to TV shows. Six of Crows is going to make an appearance on my TBR later, so I couldn't do that. I don't really want to reread Shadow and Bone because it's not my favorite series. I'd rather reread Six of Crows, and I don't want to read them side by side. So it was a little bit difficult for me to pick something out. Pretty Little Liars is also a TV show. It's not a movie. So I was on the phone with my husband trying to figure out any like good books to movie adaptations. And of course we went through a couple of classics. And the first one I thought of was Persuasion by Jane Austen. We went through a few others to try and see if I was willing to do that, and I nixed most of them just because they're a little bit long for the second half of the month, and I just definitely did not think that I was going to be able to read them. For instance, I'm not going to be able to get to Dracula. Dracula is really intense. It is one of my favorite classics, but it's not something I could read. So I decided to go for Persuasion. I know they just redid a TV show, and I'm not going to talk about it because I'm not watching it. I have no interest in watching it. I've heard way too many negative things, but I do love Persuasion. It is my second favorite Jane Austen novel, second only to Northanger Abbey. It is a relatively short novel of Jane Austen's, which is saying a lot because the other ones are really long, and I believe it does actually have a movie adaptation from like several years ago. We're hoping. Not really sure. We're just gonna go with it. I actually really can't wait to reread this. I haven't reread Jane Austen since I read Emma in grad school, but I do love her work. Of course, she is the mother of all things romance, so I can't not love her. But I do have this copy of Persuasion, which I will try and get to. For the Study Buddy required book, this is to read a book with a morally gray character. This prompt left me with like a bunch of different options that I was trying to choose from, and I think I finally settled on either Vengeful or this Savage Song. So I am getting the collector's edition from Waterstones of this Savage Song. So I'll put the cover here by V.E. Schwab. Both are by V.E. Schwab, by the way. And I have read the Savage Song. It was quite a while ago. I haven't actually picked up book 2, but it's basically kind of a story that kind of flirts the line of what it means to be good and what it means to be evil. And like, they're all monsters, so it's kind of trying to figure out which one's the worst monster. If not, I might restart Vengeful because I haven't finished it yet. Sarah and I were supposed to buddy read it earlier this year. I think she finished it and I stopped because I made the mistake of looking at the end of the book. And so now I know where my favorite character ends up, and I'm not sure I want to get there, so I paused. But I do want to finish reading that so I can be ready whenever the third one does come around. So for AWW Needs You, which is read a book with undead characters, I have left this space open. I have some options both on my Kindle, and I also have The Damned, which I need to restart because I don't remember anything, but I'm kind of in the middle of it. I might reread The Beautiful and then go to The Damned. I'm just kind of playing it by ear with this one, just because I'm not really sure what I want to fill it with, and I feel like having a little bit of a looser prompt here might help me a little bit more. So basically it's going to be a romance with a undead character, or like a vampire or something like that, or it's going to be The Beautiful or The Damned, whichever one I decide to restart and reread. So I'm going to pronounce this Tops because that's what it sounds like, but it's T-A-H-P-S, Volunteers. And this is to read a historical fiction book. This took me a while to figure out that I actually owned a historical fiction book that I could fit into this slot because I own a lot of books that are based off of Greek history. And a lot of the other books that I could read were kind of like, I'm not really sure if that's historical fiction or not. So I kept going back and forth, but I finally settled on 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. This has been on my shelf for about a year or two. I do really want to read it. It does go through some of the mythos, and it does, I think it's a feminist retelling. Yeah. So I believe this is a feminist retelling of the Iliad, or the Odyssey, but it is a feminist retelling, and it does center around the women in those mythos. So mythos, history. If not, I'll sub it out if I don't feel like it fits the prompt too much. And that's that. That's a total of 18 prompts for the month. Do I think I'm going to get to all of them? Probably not. Like I said, it is going to be a little bit of a busy month for me, but I am looking forward to getting to them and trying to see what I can complete and what exams I can complete. I definitely want to make sure that I pass my exams for my Master of Elements career and hopefully keep pursuing that goal in the future. I'm looking forward to the Readathon and participating in the all-nighter, hopefully, because I'll be in the same time zone as everybody who is starting the all-nighter. But it'll be really fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully Sarah and I can get together and do some buddy reads together as well, just kind of like reading sprints and productivity sprints that we usually do on Fridays. I'm looking forward to the challenge. I hope you guys have a great Orilium month. If you're not partaking in the Readathon, I do hope you still have a fun TBR set and reach your goals. Happy reading, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!